welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Welcome to Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. This is Jessikah. I am hosting today, and I am here with the author of How I'll Kill You, which was razor sharp and very, very cool. Please introduce yourself and tell us about this book.
Hello. Well, first of all, I'm really excited to be here. My name is Ren Destefano, and this is my debut thriller. A lot of people may know me from my young adult novels that I've written under Ren Destefano, starting in, 2011, which I cannot believe how long ago that was now. But this is my debut thriller, and I like to think of it as it's almost a romance novel and a serial killer thriller at the same time.
I really like that you say that it's almost a romance novel too, because I was kind of thrown by that. I was not expecting that part of it. And I liked it. I was like a real sneaky way to stick a romance novel in a like serial killer book. So really quickly, so this is about three identical triplets who are also serial killers.
Correct.
So where did that come from?
So because I come from YA, I had written so many children's books, and I knew that I wanted to write an adult thriller at some point in my career. And for about 5 years, I had been trying to get the idea and trying to get the voice. And I consumed so many thrillers. And what I learned is there are so many different types of thrillers. You've got the gritty cop dramas. You've got the really kind of poetic Gone Girl thrillers that are very character driven. You've got female driven. You've got male driven. You've got couples that kill. You've got all sorts of wonderful, really cool things. And for years, I had been sending my agent little dribs and drabs of ideas. And she would say, I don't think you have the voice for this. This has already been done to death. Pick something else. And I think a lot of writers would say it happened to me on a day when I turned my brain off. I wasn't trying to think of anything. And I was watching some true crime on YouTube. And I think a lot of YouTube channels upload very old true crime from the 80s and 90s, old networks, And there was a title that was Killer Siblings. And I thought, ooh, siblings that are making a pact to kill. But of course it ended up being one sibling killing another sibling. So it wasn't quite that. But I got the idea, what if siblings did band together? Because we mostly know serial killers as flying solo, because it's very dangerous to have somebody who's in on your secret. I feel like there are very few people, if any, that you would trust enough to not turn you in. And so I really wanted to explore what kind of really tight and obviously very toxic relationship they would have, that they would all do this together.
Yeah, it was really cool. And it's like part of me wants to talk about their backstory, and part of me doesn't, because I feel like it gives a little bit away. But I thought it was really interesting. So first of all, the idea of identical triplets, you hear a lot about identical twins, but identical triplets, that's something. And, it happens. They say that it's extremely rare, but it does happen. And really the one whose voice we hear the most is either Sissy or Jade, depending on
AKA,
how she's
AKA.
And Sissy is not her real name, but that is the name her sisters use for her. And Jade is the alias she's using to seduce her Mark, who she's supposedly going to kill, who's Edison. And her sisters go by Iris and Moody. Right? Yeah. Sorry. For a second, I was like blanking on there. I'm like, Iris, and I know it's a feeling. It's a feeling.
They go by a lot of names. Yeah. Because they very much don't. They have legal names that are just kind of an afterthought that are not really known to the reader for most of the story. Yeah.
Yeah, but the names that they refer to themselves as are the names that they kind of all came up with together.
Right.
And Sissy, aka Jade, she has a role in their serial killing, and it's never been to be the actual killer.
Right.
Her sisters have done that, and she's kind of had other parts in it. And this is supposed to be her first kill. And, you get that she wants to impress her sisters, but she meets Edison and she says he's perfect, and she really means it. She begins to actually fall for him, and because of her, just the way that she is, sort of the way she goes about it, is just so unique and different and interesting. Where did her voice come from? Because I think it's interesting that your agent had said you don't have the right voice for it. I thought it was so well done.
Well, so my agent loved this particular story. I think it was that I had tried to write in so many different styles. And my agent, knowing my writing, having worked with me since 2008, long before I published a book, she knew where my strengths were. And she can tell when I was trying too hard to imitate maybe a different type of book than what I was going to pull off well enough to really be competitive or offer something new to a genre. And so I had to swallow that pill, which was really difficult, to know that I can't just write anything I think of. I really do have to play to my strengths. And for Sissy as a narrator, so of the three, you have Iris, who is just very aggressive and lethal and you're always side-eyeing her. It almost seems like she would kill her sisters because she's so intense. And then you have Moody, who is just very difficult to read, very sweet and demure and kind of unassuming, and then you will never see her coming. So when we get to Sissy, I believe that she was the most observant of the three and probably the most practical. They would say she was emotional. She was kind of the weak one of the three. They really babied her, but she had this really keen ability to look at people and to see who they are and to see the motivations behind their actions. And there's a lot of really wonderful, unreliable narrators in this space. And I thought that might be how she would turn out because she's a serial killer. But she ended up, almost from page one, she was so confessional and so honest and really unashamed almost of, okay, this is what I'm here to do. This is how, you think that you can dispose of a body this way, but actually, if you wanted to do it, you'd have to do it this way. And you think that this is how you'd make somebody fall in love with you, but really the best way is to do that, and it's all these things that nobody would ever say out loud. Thoughts that anyone who thought this way would not admit to having, but she just offers it to the reader very honestly. And I appreciated that because I was able to really understand what she was doing.
Yeah, no, I liked that too. And, something that I thought was really interesting sometimes, again, like, she'd say these things and I'd be like, what? Like, like this is your okay. But it worked for the character. And, like Edison as a love interest, I thought it was interesting. Like, she's just like, okay, I'm going to go to church to find somebody, and I'm going to be this demure church girl in order to snag this guy. And, just like everybody from that point forward just sort of subverted expectations, and it just kept throwing the reader, myself, for a loop, and also Sissy for a loop. So she kind of always had to keep repositioning, because be it Edison, be it her neighbor, be it her sisters, everybody, she had this keen ability, but also would kind of miss things and be like, oh, okay, let's pivot. And I thought that was just a really cool way to take this ride with her.
Yeah, it was a really wild ride. And I think her sisters were so unpredictable. And even she had that awareness. She knew, okay, I'm having thoughts I can't share with them. And then she was sort of feeling guilt. And if you think about it, they're all 25 years old. And it's perfectly normal for a 25-year-old to have a relationship, to maybe just have intimacy with her partner and maybe just want some privacy. But she feels a lot of guilt because she's thinking, well, they tell me everything. They know everything. I shouldn't be keeping things from them. It's deceptive. And that's really that really strong codependency. And not only codependency, but also that idea that if one of us cracks, we're all going to go down. we've done too many things, we've come too far.
Yeah, no. I really liked it. And, you know, can we talk about their backstory a little bit?
Yeah, of course. I think so.
So three identical triplets, and they are not 100% anonymous because they were sort of like a media sensation
Right.
because they were abandoned as babies, and they grew up in the system. And that's sort of, you know, they came together and were separated several times. How did that sort of shape how you wrote them?
Yeah, so I think I grew up in the 90s, and I remember in the 90s and early 2000s the media just was in love with multiples. And it was a lot of, oh, you know, a couple that thought they couldn't have children had quintuplets, octuplets, triplets, you know, and it was definitely
Octomom, I remember that. Although she had kids beforehand, a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, she did. And I think sometimes it was mostly in those cases, typically like an IVF that, and I did a lot of research for that too. Because it's you have all these embryos, you try to implant, you hope one takes, and then in a rare circumstance they all take and you have 5 babies, right? And so I really wanted to give them that start where they don't know where they come from. They're found abandoned. And so everyone's thinking, ooh, triplets, like we can make a lot of money off of this. And it ended up setting up a little bit of a trust for them because so many donations came in. So this is ironically how they have the money to not work and to do the life that they're doing. And they all grew up in 3 different environments because triplets are really cute, but as they grow up, they're people. Nobody wanted to deal in the foster system with 3 children at once. It's so hard to keep siblings together. And Sissy just ended up, just by chance, in a very warm and caring home environment with people that really wanted to give her the best. She had a really good relationship with a foster sibling, and she would look over and she would see how miserable her sisters were. And so she started to, very early on at the age of 6, fall into a pattern of sabotaging her happiness and doing mean things to her foster mother, or just ghosting her foster siblings' calls when they were concerned for her. And I think that really, it played into the roles that they had as adults, because they wanted their power back. They wanted the ability to be together and to be in charge of their lives. And they took it too far.
Oh, totally. 110%. So did you like know everything that was going to happen, or did you sort of you know, did certain roadblocks come up? I'm kind of trying to move away from using the terms plotter and pantser because it's kind of, I don't know. I'm sort of over it, but I know that those are the terms. You know, like, are you? What I prefer to say is MacGyver writer. You know, like you're writing and do you have a plot in mind, or do things sort of come up as you're writing?
It's a little bit of both. So I wrote an ending for this book where I just really desperately wanted everybody to be happy. And I think anyone who knows my young adult books would say, like, I do try to give a somewhat happy ending. I might throw a tragedy in there, but I try to end on a hopeful note. And I wanted to do that so badly. And I sent it to my agent. I sent it to a reader. And they both said, you're letting everybody off the hook. This isn't realistic. This is a really disappointing way to go. And so I had to face, okay, I'm trying too hard to give this the ending I want, and I need to really look realistically. And I won't spoil anything, but we have a trio of serial killers. We have one of them who falls in love with the man she's meant to kill, and if she were to run away with him, it would absolutely put her life in danger. It would decimate her relationship with her sisters. Versus if she kills him, that's also going to decimate absolutely everything and, you know, ruin any shot she has at happiness. And so I'll only say that the only ending that was possible was for it to just end in catastrophe, no matter what.
So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Another thing I kind of want to bring up, because yeah, you're right. We're probably around the same age. I remember all the obsession with multiples. I have multiples.
Okay.
But I mean, only twins, that's it. Like
Really?
nothing too exciting.
No, that is.
Yeah, no, they're pretty great. But another thing I really liked, and I'm wondering how much you drew from this, is just how the media also likes, they like these like almost like tragic stories, they'd really like to sort of focus on
Mhm.
something that's a tragedy and be like, but now everything's great. And it just never really was. Like, it was all sort of like a rating sweep, like Sally Jesse has this person on who was trapped in a well and now their life is perfect, and
Mhm.
maybe it's not. Did you use any of those stories as well?
There was a sort of a mention towards the end where Sissy mentions, okay, when we were little, everyone was really fascinated with us, and then we fell off. There's always something new and more interesting later. And now, without spoiling anything, in the end, she ends up in the news again. And it's, well, here are all these television psychologists to come in and make money off of our images, but nobody's in our entire lives actually helped us. We went on TV, we got some free tricycles, we got some donations, and then we were thrown into a really horrible system that traumatized and scarred us. And nobody cares about how we turned out the way we did or what's been happening to us. And people will continue to not care. And I think we actually see a really interesting thing now in the age of sort of family channels, and how the first generation of children in family channels are growing up now, becoming young adults and speaking out and saying, I didn't really consent to having a camera shoved in my face when I was 3, and coming home and having a bad day at school and my mom uploading that to the internet. So I think that there's always this weird fascination we have with the inner lives of families and children, and we put them on screens and then we don't actually know what's going on when they're not on camera.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I was thinking. So this was a great read. Are you going to write in the adult world again anytime soon?
I would really like to. I'm working on something. I think my voice and what I'm really interested in is the idea that it's not always the scary shadow in an alleyway, and it's not always the guy that's giving you kind of a weird look at a bus stop. It can be literally anybody. It can be, a young 25-year-old pretty woman with a guitar. It can be anyone at any time.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. So once again, this was Jessikah with Syosset Libraries Turn the Page podcast, speaking with the author of How I'll Kill You, and that is
Ren Destefano. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. And we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.